I'm going to start this week's report with a little story, and it's about the spirit of the Delta angler. The story takes place, I don't know, a week or so ago. I was out on the Delta. It was the first day of that big windstorm that came in. Wind was blowing 20, 25 steady, maybe gust up to 30. It was brutal. I returned to the dock at Paradise Point about 2 p.m. I don't know if you guys can hear that whatever it is up there, woodpecker, but it's bugging the hell out of me. Anyhow, I get back to Paradise Point, 2 o'clock, brutal day of fishing. Nobody's in the parking lot. There's one boat at the dock. It's a 14-foot Valco style aluminum boat with maybe a 15 or 20 horse motor on it. And I meet Joe and Juan. And I'm thinking, these guys got to be out, maybe got some live bait. They're going to tuck into somewhere behind, where the wind's protected and maybe, drift around or throw out some live bait for stripers. No, Joe and Juan are out for largemouth bass. And again, 25-mile-an-hour breeze, 14-foot aluminum boat. They don't care. They're not in it for the money. They're not in it for the fame, the glory. They're there for the love of the game. So I got to give it to Joe and Juan for just going out, putting in your time, grinding it out for the love of the game, and that's what it's all about. That's what true Delta rats do out here on the Delta. Joe and Juan, congratulations for going out and just toughing it out. I will say the next day I got a report from Juan. They caught some fish. I got a picture of Juan with a 4-pound fish that topped the bag. So once again, it paid off for him. With that, let's take a look at a few pictures and then we'll get right into the report. All right, thanks for joining me. You're watching the In Deep on the Delta report for March 12th. And we're going to start off real quick with just a couple of reminders on a couple of the swap meets and things going on. So we have the Real Custom Boat Works Coast Guard vessel inspection coming up, and that's also swap meet Sunday, March 29th at Paradise Point. If you have any questions, call Jim at 209-915-9880. We also have the Central Valley swap meet. That's going to be benefiting Cast for a Cause. That's in Modesto, 1000 Kansas Avenue. That's going to be Saturday, March 21st. Any questions, call Steve, 209-402-1764. And I will be at both of those, so make sure if you go out there to stop by and say hi. I'll have some merchandise, some hats and merch if you guys decide you want to get some merch. See you guys out there. Let's get right into Clear Lake, and I have another story that needs to be told about the BBT tournaments that took place last weekend. So we got the BBT tournament on Saturday, I think it was the 7th, that's the wine region tournament. Then we had a Sunday tournament, which was the Golden Mussel tournament. Same organization, but two different divisions, two separate tournaments, one-day tournaments. I want to talk about one of the teams that fished that, Aaron Skanderson and Philip Macon Jr., Markin Jr., whoever it is, Aaron and Philip. They went out Saturday, they put 40.2 pounds in the boat. Excellent weight. They went out Sunday, put in 42.1 pounds in the boat. Back-to-back 40-pound limits. I've never heard that happening ever before. Here is I'm going to say the sad part. They back 40-pound limits up and they don't even win either tournament. Ridiculous. I don't think that's ever been done before. And I've just had to give Aaron and Phil a big shout out. You guys did something that is in the the highest echelon of bass fishing. I don't care, professional, non-professional. The history of bass fishing. Great job, guys. With that, let me go over the guys. They had, in the 2 days, they had 5 40-pound bags. Saturday, first place was won by Alec Pitts and Christian Burns, 42 pounds. Aaron and Phillip had 40. That was Saturday. Sunday, Dan Hurley and Dan R. Hurley had 43.2 pounds. Aaron and Phillip had the 42-pound bag. And then Nathan Phillips and Tom Jolin had 41 pounds. 5 40-pound bags in 2 days, 2 separate tournaments. I talked with Randy Pringle, the tournament director, and I said, what's going on, Randy? Was there maybe 5-6 years ago, did they have a great spawn and all these big fish are just showing up? Is it the bait? Has there been an explosion of bait where they're just getting big? I said, Steve, it's one thing, it's forward-facing sonar. These guys are finding fish that were out there all the time, but they're able to go offshore, they're able to find them, and they're able to fish for them. You guys know Randy, he's been out here for ages, he's seen it all, and I'm going to have to agree with Randy on that one. That's why these big bags are coming out. The fish have been there, they're just easier to find. So take that with a grain of salt. If you do go up there, I talked to up to Clear Lake. I talked to Clear Lake Outdoors. Obviously, they're saying the fishing is good, but the fish are starting to scatter, and a lot of the fish are starting to move in close to spawn, close to the shore. So if you're going up there, if you have forward-facing sonar, throw your minnow imitations, find your fish, catch your fish. If you're not, run the bank, trash fish, 6-inch Senkos, 6-inch swim baits and chatterbaits. Start in about 3 feet of water, work your way out. You don't have to get out to much over 20 or 25 feet. And that's the report on Clear Lake. With that, let's get right into the Delta. And I'll go over water conditions real quick. Then I've got special guest Rob Cloutier is going to come on. He's going to give you his opinion on what he's been seeing and what's been going on the last week. Then I'll get into some of my reports and my take on what I've been seeing out here on my own. Delta water temps are running around 60 degrees. Visibility from 1 to 6 or 8 feet. Most of the people that are fishing out here are complaining about the dirtier water, and you got to run around. You got to run around to find that clean water, and there's not a lot of it. But I have found some. I'll let you know where I'm finding my clean water in just a minute. And the water's still that kind of dirty, kind of brownish color, but it is starting to get that green tint. It's just not moving fast enough for both of for anybody out here. Sea lions are everywhere. You're going to deal with a lot of sea lions, but all in all, the Delta is hopefully in a mending mood and things are going to get better in the next week or two. Let's start off with stripers, and I talked to Jeff Suhu. Jeff is from Suhu Sport Fishing. Jeff is back on the Delta. He's reporting slow striper fishing, and I'm asking Jeff, what's it going to take for these fish to pick up? All of Jeff's buddies that are fishing Sassoon Bay and the North Bay are seeing just tons of fish in there. They're just not filtering into the Delta. He thinks the water is still it has to warm up just a bit, and it's got to clear up a little bit. Last year we talked about this, and we were hoping that big slug of fish, came in. It really never materialized. So hopefully, what Jeff is saying, in the next week to 2 weeks, we've got this 80-degree ambient temperatures. We should be getting warmer water temperatures. That should push some fish into the system, and let's hope that happens. If you want to get a hold of Jeff and maybe set up an appointment to get out and have Jeff guide you, you can call Jeff at Suhu Sport Fishing, 925-899-4045. If you're coming out fishing right now, I would suggest fishing Frank's Track. There has been some fish being caught in Frank's Track, all the little tributaries around Frank's Track. Most people are trolling. They've got to move around to find the fish. Once they find them, if you've got live bait, you can fish for them with live bait and catch some fish. But stick around Frank's Track, and hopefully next week we'll have a better report for the stripers. With that, we're going to get right into the largemouth bass, and I'm going to turn it over to Rob Cloutier. He's going to give you a rundown of what he thinks, what he's been seeing, what he thinks is going to happen in the next week or so. Then we'll get into the rest of the report. All right, Rob, thanks for joining me this week. We got guys coming out. Things are starting to happen. So if somebody's coming out this week, what should they be looking for? What tide should they be fishing? What depth they should be looking for. I know the watercolor is all over the board, so fish what's in front of you basically. And also maybe you can get into should they be fishing fast, should they be fishing slow, and then maybe advise them on a couple of things they should have on their deck.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's warming up, as you can see out here. We're out here today. It's 75, 80 degrees. It's beautiful out. The sun's shining. It's going to get better throughout the week. Next week, the bite should really start picking up. It's just right on that upward trend right now. All the cold fronts past us. So we're getting into that warming trend, and we're climbing up there. So what I'm going to look for in this next week is I'm going to look for flats. I'm looking for a big flat on a main channel and that edge where these fish can pull up, and they're looking to nest, they're looking to feed, so they're going to be sitting on these big flats. So I'm going to target that. Depth range, we're looking at that 3 to 5, even shallower on that higher tide. That lower tide, I'm going to get down into that 5 or 6 when those fish pull off that edge right there. Color wise, obviously if it's dirty, the water's pretty dirty everywhere here. There's some clear spots down south here and there, dead end sloughs, but the majority of the river system is pretty dirty. So I'm going to look for that black and blue, that green pumpkin, that flame orange color. You know, you see it here, my spinner baits I'm throwing, it's that flame orange blade. This is my dirty water spinner bait. It's tied on. I also do have that buzz bait tied on. These big fish want to feed on something that makes a lot of noise. They will smack that buzz bait right there. Black, chartreuse, white. It's more the noise than it is the color, in my opinion. But yeah, they're eating that, as well as that Senko. The fish want it slow. They want a lot of stuff slow. So if you're having a hard time catching fish and you're just throwing reaction, slow it down with that Senko and that drop shot and just let it sit there for a while. I know it's hard to do it, but these bigger fish want something slow. They want to slurp it up. They want to see it too in that dirty water. Slow it down with that Senko. You'll pick up fish. The frog's starting to work as well too as we get these warmer days. Should be pretty good.
How about punching? I hear a few guys catching them punching.
You know, the punch bite's always there. There's a jig bite too. It's always there. Whenever I see something that looks good as I'm rolling down the river, throwing a jig, throwing a spinner bait, and I come to it, I'll have that flipping up on the deck right there, and I will throw that in when I come across it. So yeah, it's always an option out here on the river.
One last question: is there a specific tide that most people are saying they're catching fish on? Is it the high outgo? I've been doing most of my fishing centered around the high tide. How's low tide been? You
know, low tide's good if you want to get in there for bed fishing. You'll start seeing these bucks up there coming up. I've seen a couple last week. This week I saw a couple as well. So you'll see those bucks. Those females are right behind it. So the shallow, low tide I'm liking for the bed fishing. I like the higher tide for these new fish pulling up. They tend to eat when it's that high tide, and I'm just fishing rocks. The fish want to hug tight on structure. Mm-hmm. So whether it's tule clumps, logs, bridge pilings, dock pilings, whatever it be, these fish want to relate to it right now. For some odd reason, they're just sticking to that. Yeah. So I'm looking for that as I'm going down the river. Tule clumps, logs, structure, anything like that. Flipping, spinnerbait, buzzbait, Senko.
All right, you guys have the whole story now. So let's wrap this up, Rob. If you guys have any more questions, you can hit Rob up out at the Bass Hole Tackle Shop, and he'll give you up-to-date information. Thanks a lot, Rob.
Yep, thank you.
All right, I want to thank Rob for giving us that report, and let's talk a little bit about the tournaments that were going on last week. We had the Thursday night, or the Thursday tournament. Aaron and Phil and John won that with 21.6 pounds. Second place was Cam and Aaron. They had 19.8. I think they had 10 boats. Most of the guys had 10 or 12 pounds of fish. So it was a pretty darn good day to be fishing last Thursday. Everybody caught fish, and you know, it was a decent day to fish. Let's go down a couple of days. We'll talk about the tournament Sunday, the Bass Hole tournament out at Orwood. They had 67 boats. It took 22 pounds to win. Christian and Hunter won that. I think they had 2 or 3 20-pound bags. After that, it really fell apart. There were a few 14s, 15s, but most people in that 67 boat field either had 1, 2, or 3 fish. Several people blanked, and it was a very grinding day to be out there on the Delta. And by the way, I have a full recap of the Bass Hole tournament where I interview a lot of the guys, and you can listen to what they did. You can see the disappointment on a lot of faces out there. They just had experienced some very tough fishing. The guys that did do well, and by the way, everybody said that It was hard to find clean water. There were no patterns. If there was one thing that was happening, most people that caught fish caught them on worms. A few people caught them on chatterbaits. There was no topwater bite, not really a punch bite, not really a frog bite. It was just kind of grinding out. Not a lot of guys caught a lot of fish. They just struggled, and it was hard to put 5 fish in the boat. The guys that did win, I talked to Christian. He moved a lot. You guys know Christian. He's a mover, he's a shaker. He had to find his fish, you know, all over the Delta. The guys that took second place, they had some good fish going in practice. It was on a short stretch of bank, and they went back to that stretch, and I think they caught 3 or 4 fish in that one short stretch of bank, and then they had to move around the rest of the day. Let's jump ahead to the reports that I've been getting, and they have been slow. Most boats are reporting 1 to 3 fish. All of these fish are males. If you're looking for one bait that seems to keep popping up, it is a Cinco. Fished at the base of Tules, and that's what I've also found. So those are the reports from the folks that have been going out, and I want to thank you guys for sending in your reports, because I know when you go out there and you have a disappointing day, it's hard to send in a report, but it really helps me to formulate the weekly report. With that, what have I been seeing? I can tell you that before the big blow a week or so ago, the fishing was really on an upswing. I was able to go out and maybe catch, you know, half a dozen fish to 10 or 12 fish. Nathan and I were out, and we were catching fish, but it was slow. Once that big wind came in, it just knocked the bite down tremendously, where it's just turned into a grind. I was out Tuesday, and I was finally able to put in a limit of fish. 5 fish in the boat for about 13 pounds. They were all about 2.5 to maybe 3.25 pounds. And it was not easy fishing. I was out about 6 hours. I caught all of my fish in one area, and I caught those fish in about a 1-hour time frame. We'll let you know where I was and what I was doing. I was fishing out around Terminus, Tower Park, within 2 or 3 miles of Tower Park. The McCollum is looking pretty good. I had about 3 to 4 feet of visibility and kind of that green tinge of water. Water temperatures were 60 degrees. I fished the high outgo tide, and I did nothing but fish worms. My 5 fish, 4 of them were on worms. 1 of them was on a chatterbait. Don't think they're hitting chatterbaits, because I really tried to force feed them on chatterbaits. 1 bite, 1 fish, and I probably fished that bait for over an hour, maybe an hour and a half that day, just looking to find some fish that were chasing something. Not a pattern for me with the chatterbait. It was all worms, and they had to be placed right up next to a tule. They had to be in a protected area. That area had to have some depth to it, and it had to be fairly clean water. And don't think, if you see that spot and you get in there and you pitch that perfect cast into the perfect place, that you're going to get a bite every time. You have to make that perfect cast in the perfect place at the perfect time, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times to get 1 bite. That's what I'm finding. So when I say I had a decent 5 fish limit for that day, I am happy that I had 5 fish, and they did not come easy. With that, I did throw some topwaters, nothing. There was a few people catching fish punching and frogging a couple of weeks ago, but that kind of deteriorated. A lot of people just, you know, if they're catching them, they're being closed-lipped about it. I'm sure you can get them punching, but flipping worms is number 1, the best. Some guys in the tournament talked about chatterbait fishing. A few guys caught them on crankbaits, but there is just no pattern out here right now other than worms. So with that, we have the next 2 weeks supposed to be 80-degree ambient temperatures out here. The water is going to continue to warm up. It's going to continue to clear up, and by all rights, things should break open any day. So what I'm telling you right now, put that in the back of your mind. If you're coming out this weekend, it could be unbelievable fishing. I think it's day to day. We're going to find a day out here where it seems like everybody comes out with minor expectations. and you get those fish, and it's going to turn on. It's going to turn on quick. So with that, I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure if you get out there, send me a report. scooper9561032@gmail.com. And until then, get out, have some fun. We'll see you out here. Good luck.